Now, without further ado, let's move on to the keynote. We couldn't be more excited or honored to introduce you this keynote speaker. He's a friend. He has been a senior executive at companies that you might have heard of, companies like Adobe, companies like Google, companies like Apple. At Google specifically, he managed a book of business of billions of dollars on a yearly basis with a B. Please help me welcome to the stage, Todd Rowe.
Thank you very much, Armando. It's a privilege to be here. I love the aspect of having a TED Talk style event for everything around SaaS. So thank you very much. I'm really excited to be able to meet with you here. And thank you all for joining this. I hope this day provides you with a lot of insights, these pearls of wisdoms that you can take and implement into your own business itself. Today, I'd like to talk to you a bit about go-to-market IP. Actually, let me just bring up some slides here and share this with you and share with you what do I mean by go-to-market IP, how it's sometimes elusive, but more importantly, how do you go about building that there? So that's what I'll take you through in about 10 minutes time. Afterwards, we'll open it up for Q&A for any questions you might have for about 5 minutes time. So we'll go from there. A bit of background here. So currently, I am on the board of directors of a couple different companies here. I've worked in startup companies like Bevy Labs. I've worked at larger companies like Armando had said, Google, SAP, Adobe, Apple, some things that way. And if I were to say interesting fact about me, I'd say modern day nomad. I have lived all over the place. My family and I have lived East Coast, West Coast. I've personally lived in 12 cities, 3 countries all over. I travel an awful lot. I've had global roles for the last 15 years or so. And even though I've traveled quite a bit, a lot of new countries I still need to go and visit. So that's a bit about me, about my background here. Let me actually talk to you in terms of go-to-market IP. Here's what I think. I, first of all, would like you to think of really successful companies that you know who have just had this meteoric growth. Think of one company in particular. It could be anyone, any company, any industry. And then what you would think about usually would be they have been able to achieve escape velocity, really great growth that way. But I would bet that part of the reason why they have grown is not just great technology, not just great timing, but also because they had something called go-to-market IP. Let me give you a background story on this. Back in 2010, I was interviewing for a job at Google. It was to build out a global business unit here. And one of the interview questions I had was, we would like to grow this from 250 million to $1 billion in 2 years' time. Are you the guy to do this? Well, and when you're interviewing at Google, there's only one answer. It's like, well, yes, of course, I'm the person to do that. And I got up there in the interview on a whiteboard and outlined how I would do that. And I figured I did well enough in the interview because I got the job offer, joined them on the first day. They said, okay, great. Welcome to the company. The clock is now ticking. You've got 2 years. Good luck. And I thought to myself, what type of compounded annual growth rate is going from $250 million to $1 billion in 2 years' time? It was insane. And I realized I could not organically just throw enough bodies or people at it or enough product or even see how many different markets to go into really to do that. I had to look at things beyond just function specific, like just look at marketing or just look at sales or customer success. I had to look cross-functionally, truly from a go-to-market standpoint, to really try to scale this business cross-functionally. So today I'll talk about what is go-to-market IP from aspects of systems, shared success metrics, and people, and how not only great, large, successful companies can create this go-to-market IP, but how any company can do that, how you can do that as well. So that's what we'll go through here as well. Here's what I think the problem statement is. Most companies that you look at will optimize each function in itself. So they'll optimize aspects of product development from an engineering perspective with agile methodology and optimize the engineering team itself. Separate, distinct from that, we will optimize the marketing team, everything from lead generation, pipeline flow, branding aspects that way. Separate, distinct from that would be from a sales perspective as well, optimizing each individually. And each of them has their own IP. The engineering team has product IP in their code base. From a marketing perspective or sales, their customer IP is in CRM. But very little IP exists out there that truly is cross-functional, the whole customer lifecycle, starting from product and product development, then to marketing, then to sales, and then customer support aspects as well. And by its nature, it is very fragmented and it's very scattered. Sometimes it's in systems, sometimes it's in people's heads. And with a great resignation, when people leave, part of that go-to-market IP leaves as well. So we need to optimize this for the entire customer lifecycle, not just one single component. I liken this to a growth train, where that train is literally, we have to optimize each of these different aspects, not just 5 or 15 different train cars itself. So from my experience in building out go-to-market IP, there are 3 components, simply: systems, shared success metrics, and people. So let's talk about each of these 3 briefly here. So in practice, here are the things that we really need to look at. Systems. Now, you say, we already have a great engineering product IP. We've got the code base there. We're fine from that system. And you may have a great CRM system there from a lead generation, from a customer management perspective, and perhaps a different system for customer support or different aspects that way. Instead of having to rip and replace all of those, my recommendation, keep each one of those that you have, but build a bridge between those with dashboards that have function-specific among the different function-specific systems there. Build that bridge with dashboards so that you can manage and track the operational metrics beyond between those different systems here. And it's measuring what I call the 3 V's: volume, value, and velocity. Let's take pipeline, for example, to highlight what I mean by volume, value, and velocity. With the volume, we need to look at the total number of deals that are in the upper, mid, and lower part of our funnel. Do we have enough deals based upon an average sales price to help make our numbers? Then also, what is the value? Is that value, average of deal value, increasing, decreasing? And lastly, velocity. How quickly are we able to go through that pipeline? The same thing is true as far as volume, value, and velocity from a product perspective. And so we'll measure each of these 3 different variables here, going from product to marketing to sales to customer support aspects that way. So the first one is from a systems perspective. Rather than creating a completely new go-to-market IP, it's building dashboards to be those bridge points between those different function-specific systems itself. The second one, though, I think is really important. And it is as follows: the cross-functional success metrics. If you think about our MBOs, our KPIs, most all of them, 80, 90%, perhaps 100%, are function specific, where it's just within marketing. How many leads are we driving? How many sales qualified leads do we get at the very bottom of the funnel there? And then they're done. From a sales perspective, your quota is your KPI that way. How many deals, what your quota attainment is, things that way here. But rarely do you see shared success metrics. David Hewlett was the founder of Hewlett Packard. It was the first startup here in Silicon Valley. And he had once said something that was very prescient. He said, "Show me how someone is measured, and I will show you how they behave." And that is so true. We see that again. And so if we have function-specific KPIs, our people will function in a function-specific environment that way. Whereas if we give them shared success metrics, where the marketing team will only succeed if sales succeeds, or the product development or product management team will succeed only if they work closely with marketing. So one of the things that I've had to do is actually change some of the KPIs so that this way, for example, marketing and sales own certain targets together, where marketing's quota is around sales accepted leads, not marketing generated leads. So this way, sales and marketing have to work together that way. And it's surprising to see how quickly marketing and sales view each other as companions and help for each other to make those numbers here. So shared success metrics, I would actually ask you to look at each of these two different functions that have to work together, whether it's product and marketing, marketing and sales, sales and customer support, and see what are those shared success metrics and measure them, compensate them, look at promotions based upon that. Lastly, from a people standpoint, I'd like to have you think of one company that you admire who has been just so strong and so successful. Um, and as you think about that in your mind, I would bet one of the things you think about is not just, as I said, great technology or great execution, but they probably hire really, really great people. My belief is that the people are the glue that keep go-to-market IP together. Let me repeat that. It is the people, there's the glue that keeps the go-to-market IP together, not just systems, not just cross-functional success metrics. Part of the way you and I as leaders are measured is based upon the quality of the people that we bring on board. And therefore, if we bring on people that are much more we oriented, not just I oriented, and really vet them through the interview process, where it's very much team based mindset versus individual, what's in it for me mindset, that makes a huge difference. The other thing that I find, though, that we can do as leaders is model that team culture behavior by not only who we promote, the people who are much more team oriented, but even the awards that we provide them. Awards are things that could be as simple as a certificate or some type of a plaque that recognizes them for a certain aspect, but it's trying to model the type of reward, the type of behavior that we want to model for the rest of them. I've gone to some of my team offices around the world, and literally 2 or 3 years after receiving an award, I still see somebody's award proudly displayed on their desk, where they're able to say, this is what I did for that. And though the power of awards or public recognition, but of rewarding the type of behavior we want to model for the rest of the team has a positive ripple effect for that. So those are the three aspects of go-to-market IP I wanted to share with you, of systems, cross-functional success metrics, and people. So in finalizing things, go-to-market IP and escape velocity in terms of great growth and scale can be something that all companies can have, not just for those elite, privileged few large companies that have a lot of resources. You can accomplish this as well as you look at these three different aspects of go-to-market IP. And so one of my favorite quotes actually is from a German philosopher, Goethe, who said, the greatest thing in this world is not so much where we stand as in what direction we're moving. My hope is that we take this content here and look at our IP and move from what has been function-specific IP, but truly to go-to-market IP cross-functionally. And that, my friends, will help be a great scale factor. Those are the things I wanted to share with you. I hope that's been helpful. Let's go ahead and open it up now for Q&A.
Todd, thank you first and foremost. This was awesome. It was particularly, I loved particularly two things. So one, and if there are any questions in the meantime, feel free to write them in the chat. We'll be picking them up from there. That idea of the growth, optimizing for the growth train versus the different train cars, loved it. And then one thing that I was thinking, meanwhile you were going through your talk track, was like, this is great in theory, but then in practice, you get people all the time and departments all the time that tend to revert back to their own KPIs and to their own systems and models of behaviors. And so it's tricky, right? And I think like you addressed this actually in the second part, where you were saying the key thing that really stood out to me is the more you can be intentional in creating interdependencies between functions and department, the more you are really modeling out a system that self-selects towards certain behaviors. And I think that is like disproportionately powerful.
It is. And what I find that as we build these KPIs with shared success metrics, that helps people realize, what do we really value? How will they be measured for that? But it's not just for the KPIs, even with the weekly or monthly team meetings, highlighting those things of how people are working together, those success points between different functions there. You can keep repeating that aspect on a weekly or monthly basis. That helps change that team culture or that mindset of, hey, we really have to work together to be successful.
Really underlining the things that you want to incentivize and you want to see more happening within the organization, right? Like,
exactly. Yeah.
Love that. Todd, this was great. Thank you so much for doing this. Oh, Kathy is asking if you have any reading suggestions to learn more about this idea.
I do. In fact, Harvard Business Review had a really great article I'll share with you. And actually, I can put that a little bit later, is quite good. There's another one in terms of just scale, a book that I'll share with you. It's called Blueprint to a Billion. And so I'll get that. But basically, how do you codify? How do you create a playbook to get a business to $1 billion? And so, Kathy, I'll go ahead. The great question. I'll go ahead and I'll get this to Armando, both the URL for the book as well as for the Harvard Business Review article, which I think is quite helpful. So I'll get that to you.
Love it. And I would like another soundbite as I'm digesting and processing your session is this idea of systems that grow, like compound growth over time, right? Like we talk constantly about scale, but the reality is that for most companies, scale is a tomorrow's problem. But like the way to really accelerate the path from today to tomorrow is thinking about the things that start going in that direction already, and that over time, provided that you are more like successful in executing against them, they become even more and more relevant, which I think is particularly compelling as well.
That's true, exactly. And you are right that many times we think of scale as just short-term, next quarter, next month types of things. But if we have something where it requires time, but if we have sort of a more of a bigger, audacious goal, next year we want to be doing X, Y, and Z, it gives you the time to be able to build put things into place that you can then start building that scale.
Loved it. Todd, thank you so much. We're going to open up the stages in a few minutes. So I'll see you back there.
Thank you very much, Armando.